Humans don't haunt places. They infect them. I reminded myself of that as my boots touched the decayed steel of Salo 9's landing pad. Thin clouds of rust-colored dust curled away with each step. There was no wind, no sound, no movement. Just the deep metallic creak of a place forgotten by time, or more precisely, abandoned by purpose. The prison loomed ahead, tall and skeletal against the sky that shimmered with static distortions. The structure was built by humans. Functional. Brutal. Beautiful in its own defiance. The kind of place where screams didn't echo, they got absorbed. "Kryl, scan perimeter," I said. The floating orb beside me whirred, casting blue light in slow rotations. Its voice, synthetic and sexless, replied, "No life signs detected. Radiation minimal. Structural decay, advanced. Perfect. 1 in-and-out mission. Collect the war records from Block C's secure terminal and leave." Redemption, they called it. My kind preferred not to speak of the human war. But we all remembered. You don't forget fighting an enemy that stares into death without blinking. Inside, the entry doors parted with reluctant groans, hydraulics whining after decades of neglect. The air stank of stale metal and something else, something organic that had long since died in RO. The camera moved. Not a flicker. Not a power surge. It tracked me, followed the arc of my head as I turned to leave the command hall. I stood still. Waited. The lens, now centered on my spine, gave a soft, mechanical tick. No one had power here. No system was online. I'd checked the backup cores myself. I didn't speak. I didn't breathe loud. I just walked out. The corridors seemed longer this time. The same hallway where I passed 2 rusted food carts yesterday now stretched on past a third. Or had I missed it before? Kryl would have caught that. If it were still working. The drone's last words had been fragmented, like code breaking apart midstream. "Something wrong, here, not alive, not." Then silence. I found its casing an hour ago. Gutted. Circuit boards arranged like ribs on the floor. I should have left then. Instead, I entered the unrecorded wing. This section wasn't listed in any map of Salo 9. No logs. No door entries. Just a plain steel corridor behind an emergency panel I only noticed because the dust didn't settle there the same way. Like something had passed through recently. My steps echoed differently in here. Muffled. As if the walls absorbed sound instead of reflecting it. I passed the first cell. Empty. The second had scratch marks all over the interior, spirals, words, symbols I didn't recognize. And a drawing. A human face, distorted and weeping. I kept moving. The third cell had a mirror. Not a metal plate. Not a reflective surface. A full-length, clear glass mirror, untouched by decay, its silver edge still pristine. My breath caught. That wasn't human design. That was ours. Why would our kind install a mirror in a human prison? I stepped closer. My reflection was wrong. It wore my face. My uniform. But the expression, its mouth was moving. I leaned in. "You're not Vecthar," it said in my voice. I backed away fast, stumbling into the hallway. The mirror didn't follow. Neither did the voice. I left it behind, but its words stayed with me like residue clinging to skin. Further in, the lights overhead flickered in a rhythmic pulse. On. Off. On. Off. A code? I reached a rusted terminal mounted into the wall. The screen blinked once, then a line of static text scrolled across. "Block C, 27 awake." I didn't understand it. But I didn't like it. Down the hall, a door slid open on its own. It led to a circular room, covered in surveillance monitors. Most were dark. One wasn't. The active feed showed the mess hall. A single figure sat at the table, head bowed. I leaned closer. It was me. But I was here. The feed timestamp read live. "Impossible," I said aloud. A low static buzz crept into the room. Then the speaker cracked and popped, and I heard it, breathing. Not human. Not alien. Just wet, animalistic, like lungs that had forgotten how to function. A voice followed. Whisper thin, not over the speaker but inside the room. You watched. I turned. Empty. You stood there. You let it happen. My jaw clenched. I followed orders. I muttered. The voice replied, almost gently. So did they. I backed out. Fast. My heart wasn't racing. Our kind doesn't panic that way, but something primal tightened inside my chest. Halfway down the hall, I passed a new door I was sure hadn't existed before. On it, scratched deep and ragged, were the words, "Where are the children?" That's when I started to remember things I shouldn't. A screaming girl. Fire. A shadow moving through it. Me watching. Not acting. My hands covered in ash. The smell of burned human skin. But I'd never been on that station. That wasn't my mission. That never happened to me. Did it? I reached the central stairwell again. Or what I thought was the stairwell. Instead of the same moss-choked descent, I was facing a mural. Hand-painted. Unfinished. Clearly human. It showed a planet, Earth, probably, split down the center by a great black fissure. On one side, alien ships. On the other, children, holding up bones. The signature at the bottom was smeared, but one word was legible. Hollow. I turned away. The door back to the main level was gone. Instead, another corridor stretched out, and at its end, a cell with its lights still working. A chair sat in the center. On the floor beside it, a recording device, our model, used in war tribunals. I picked it up. My own voice played back. They begged. I did nothing. I am the ghost. I am the lock. I froze. I never recorded that. That's not something I'd say. And yet the tone, the guilt in it, felt right. Suddenly, I needed to leave. I needed open air. Distance. Logic. I turned back. The corridor was different again. The walls closer. The lighting red now. My breathing changed. Faster. Louder. Not mine. Someone was standing behind me. I didn't turn. Instead, I drew my blade and slashed backward in a clean arc. Nothing. Just empty air. No one there. But the wall had a message that hadn't been there before, scrawled in smeared dark fluid. You brought it with you. I found myself back in the central control room. I don't remember walking there. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from confusion. My mind kept replaying two things at once. I was here. Alone. In a ruined prison. But I was also somewhere else. With them. With the humans. Watching them die. Or worse, watching them beg. I sat against the cold metal wall. Pulled out my blade. Carved a message into the floor. If I die here, remember that I wasn't alone. I stared at the carving for a long time. Because I didn't know if I meant someone was here with me. Or if I meant I'm not the only one who brought something back from the war. The corridor lights flickered again. The hum of machinery returned. Somewhere deep inside the complex, a door hissed open. And stayed that way. Waiting. I woke up sitting in the cell from the surveillance feed. I don't remember walking there. I don't remember falling asleep. The chair beneath me was solid, metal, welded to the floor. A faint heat pulsed through it, like something had warmed it moments before. My hands rested flat against the armrests, and for a second, I thought I was restrained. I wasn't. But I didn't move. There was writing carved into the wall across from me. The letters were in Terran Standard. Human. But the handwriting was mine. I chose to remember. I stared at it, heart silent, thoughts loud. In the corner of the room, a single bulb flickered. Every few seconds, it buzzed and dimmed, casting shadows that didn't match the shape of the room. One time, it flickered out entirely, and I swear something exhaled behind me. I stood up. Walked slowly to the door. It opened before I touched it. The hallway outside wasn't the same as before. It was clean. Not pristine, cleaned. Bleached. The grime was gone. The smell of rust replaced with ammonia and heat. Someone had scrubbed the place down. That someone wasn't me. Down the hall, I passed a door labeled, Intake B. On instinct, I pushed it open. Inside, a file room. Every drawer pulled out. Papers spilled onto the floor. Photos scattered across a desk. I knelt down. Picked one up. A human woman. Dark hair. Tired eyes. Holding a child no older than 5. They were standing in front of a military vehicle with our insignia painted on the side. Behind them, smoke. Fire. Collapse. On the back of the photo, written in shaky English. He watched. My fingers trembled. Not out of fear, but recognition. I had seen this face before. Years ago. On the battlefield. She wasn't an enemy. She wasn't even part of the war. She was just there. And I had turned away. I dropped the photo. Another file lay beneath it. My name on the tab. Vector, witness 00321. Inside, transcripts. Logs. Psychological evaluations. I flipped through one. Subject exhibits residual empathy patterns post-Earth deployment. Possible cross-imprint contamination. Recommend isolation. Post-Earth. I had never served on Earth. Not directly. That had always been the story. I turned the page. A report. Short. Blunt. Memory layer installed, April 3, 2198, Directive 7, Guilt Induction. Subject unaware of imprint protocol. Monitor for fracture. I dropped the file. They had done it. We had done it. They didn't just punish humans. They recorded them, absorbed them. Not to learn. Not to study. But to embed their terror into us. To test how much guilt we could carry before cracking. I wasn't sent here to retrieve data. I was sent here because I was the data. I ran. Corridors blurred. Doors shifted. Nothing stayed in place. Like the entire structure was bending around me, dragging me deeper into its memory. I passed the mess hall. A figure sat at the center table. It was me again. Only older. Hollowed. Staring into nothing. I didn't stop. The stairs led down now. A level I hadn't seen before. As I descended, the air grew thick, warm, almost human. Sweat. Skin. Dust. I reached the bottom. A chamber. At its center, a containment tank. Shattered. Wires spilled across the floor like veins torn from flesh. Inside the glass, burn marks formed a handprint, human-sized. To the left, an audio terminal. Still powered. Still blinking. I pressed play. My voice emerged, slow, slurred. She looked at me like I was someone else. She screamed in my language. I didn't answer. I walked away. I thought that made me clean. Click. Another file autoplayed. It doesn't make you clean. It makes you quiet. A figure moved in the reflection of the tank. Not behind me. Inside me. It stepped when I stepped. Tilted its head when I did. But its face. Human. It wore my uniform, my posture, but its eyes were human. Gray. Dead. Still blinking. You didn't survive us, it said. Its voice was mine, layered over another, higher-pitched, desperate. You became us. I turned away. The room was empty. I stared at my hands. Every scar from combat. Every mark earned in blood. And now, I couldn't tell whose blood it was. Upstairs, I made my way back to the entrance. The air outside was bright now. Thin rays of light broke through the magnetic haze. The sky churned in violet waves. I activated my long-range transmitter. Static. Then contact. Vector. Report. I hesitated. Looked back. The facility was still there. Silent. Waiting. But different now. I took the communicator. Spoke into it with the clearest voice I had. Objective complete. No records recovered. Structure unstable. Recommend closure. There was a pause. Then, understood. Return for debrief. I ended the transmission. Sat on the landing pad for a long time. The mirror image from the cell still echoed in my mind. The girl. The screaming. The handprint. The voice. The realization that none of it was truly mine. But all of it was in me now. This wasn't war. This was infection. A psychic rot planted in soldiers and left to fester for decades. Not to erase the enemy, but to carry them. To wear their last moments like armor we couldn't shed. The humans hadn't haunted this place. They had reprogrammed it. And we were just the next vessels. As my ship powered up, I didn't look back at Salo 9. But I heard it. A child's laugh, faint and echoing across the vacuum. Then silence. No ghosts. Just memory. And memory never dies. Final log entry. I remember everything now.